Well, good morning. And it's not. I'm not exactly asleep at the switch, but I just had a few things more to do right then. So I actually missed being able to do what we call the station sting. Let's do it anyway. Well, here I am, Keith Hayes. This is Mirador Television. We're broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel, and we've got a couple of things to show you between now and noon. Dip into us, stick with us, but treat us like Marmite. Some people hate us, some people love us. But if you watched, nobody ever forgets us. So it is now 8:02, and we'll do what we normally do at this hour, and that is that we'll look at what's going on and the front pages. And first of all, just to Mr. Sunak, our Prime Minister, has put the cat amongst the pigeons. He has taken if you like, a right-wing turn in modern politics. He's started to talk tough. I'm not sure whether he can get tough, but there we go. Got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But the thing that is causing the biggest stir in his change of heart, not change of heart, change of course, change of direction, which has been a long time coming, I think. But he's at the Conservative conference, and he made sure that he would that he actually wham between the eyes of those people who have been critical of his policies. So anyway, the newspaper headlines: Sunak turns on the predecessors after HS2 train wreck. So the I, Sunak turns on 13 years of Tory rule with a spending trap for Starmer. What the paper says is Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party conference speech dominates Thursday's front pages, with the I claiming the Prime Minister rounded on his predecessors and 13 years of Tory rule by pledging an end to 30 years of political status quo. The paper says Mr. Sunak, who was elected as an MP in 2015, used his speech to position himself as the politician to deliver change for the UK, with plans such as phasing out smoking and scrapping A-levels. Now, I'm the very first. In fact, my big criticism of politicians is that they will not reform. They won't change. I've said that reform is a dirty word to all politicians, no matter what level. Well, then Mr. Sunak is using filthy language today. He's voicing change. Good change, bad change, in between change, who knows? But my view is that we needed change, radical change. And if this change that he's delivering is the right change, then I'm all for it. The Times: son of a pharmacist casts himself as Thatcher's heir. Alongside an image of the Prime Minister's with his wife, Shatter Murty, who introduced her husband to the stage before he gave his speech, the Times agrees that Mr. Sunak gambled his premiership by setting himself against his recent Tory predecessors. There is a separate report on the government's new plan to phase out smoking by raising the age of the sale each year, which Mr. Sunak said would save more lives than any other decision anyone could take. It's an interesting approach to it. The Metro. Rishi, it says, I'm on track for victory. The newspaper, Metro, which is a London paper, basically, is I'm on track for victory, is the Mirador's, the Metro's take. Mirador's take. I'll tell you what that take is. Is the Metro's take on Mr. Sunak's speech, which, alongside another image of the Prime Minister and his wife, sets out his key policy announcements, including confrontation that the second phase of HS2 will be scrapped. Elsewhere, there is an alternative interview with TV presenter Aj Dudu, who's about to host the return of reality show Big Brother. There we go. I can't get excited about that. Right? Lots of people will. The Daily Telegraph. Huge decisions to change Britain. And Telegraph's take on it is it leads on Mr. Sunak making huge decisions to change Britain, adding that he used his first conference speech to try to rebrand himself as a force for change in British politics. Responding to the Prime Minister's announcement that some of HS2 has been scrapped, the paper's cartoonist, Matt Pritchard, has drawn someone suggesting to their friend that the way to stop Conservatives quitting infrastructure projects is to stop them taking any up in the first place. The Guardian. Sunak ignites Tory civil war after declaring he is a change candidate. Well, as I said, I have to deep down want to give anybody a chance who is all for change, because I think the country is in a dreadful mess. But another image of the Prime Minister giving the thumbs up and his wife waving to Conservative conference attendees who, on the Guardian's front page, the paper claims Mr. Sunak has ignited a Tory civil war by declaring he is the change candidate. Former Prime Minister David Cameron led the criticism of the HS2 decision and its climb down by accusing Mr. Sunak of throwing away 15 years of cross-party consensus sustained over 6 administrations. I'm probably right on the statistics. Haven't figured it out myself. The Mirror. PM's great betrayal. Trainwreck. Sunak condemns the North to a future of decline as he abandons HS2 and with it any prospect of, quote, leveling it up. PM's great betrayal and Trainwreck is how the Daily Mirror sums up the Prime Minister's keynote aspect, specifically the announcement on HS2. He claims Mr. Sunak, by confirming there will be no high-speed rail from West Midlands to Manchester has condemned the North of England to a future of decline. Financial Times. Sunak axes HS2 Northern leg in a bid to paint Tories as party of change. Party of change. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. The Financial Times similarly leads on the HS2 announcement and says Mr. Sunak's bid to reinvest the £36 billion saved into better value roads, rail, and bus projects, including links between northern cities and the rest of the country. The business paper also has a report about Metro Bank allegedly being in talks to raise hundreds of millions of pounds from investors. The Daily Mail, why it doesn't matter if you don't fancy your other half anymore. Exclamation mark. Right. I think the big problem with that is how much should you keep from your partner? PM's common sense revolution, says the Mail. Pride in family, pride in Britain, pride in the party of aspiration, and genuine diversity, and an unequivocal statement that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. The day Rishi gave Tories a reason to believe he can save us from Keir's wokery. Sunak's speech is hailed by the Mail as a common-sense revolution, with the paper claiming Wednesday was the day the Prime Minister gave Tories a reason to believe that he can save us from Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer's wokery. Among other snippets of his speech, the paper picks up on Mr. Sunak's assertions that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, a reference to his party's stance on the rights of transgender and people. Daily Express. It says, game changer, Rishi's radical policy, a blitz to fix Britain. Game changer is how the Daily Express sums up the speech, alongside yet another image of Mr. Sunak and his wife on stage at the conference. The policies he announced are a bid to fix Britain. The Sun. They think it's all over the place. 2030 to be staged on 3 continents. Well, it's gone to the football story. Essentially, what it said is, once again, there's change there as well. At FIFA, the paper's focus is on what it calls the bonkers news that the 2030 Men's Football World Cup will be held across 6 countries in 3 continents: Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. Those countries have been named as the co-hosts with the and the first 3 matches taking place in Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay. Right, okay, the Star. Well, it's got to give us a good one. Always does. Kidnapped by my car, it says. A supermarket forced to put security tags on bog rolls to end shoplifting epidemic. is It's splashed on the front page. Pictures of toilet rolls. We've really hit the skids, it says. It's apparently shoplifting. The Daily Star's front page focuses on some Tesco supermarkets deciding to put security tags on bog rolls to stop them being snaffled by thieves. We really hit the skids, is the paper's assessment of the situation. Wow. Well, let's see if we can get the weather, shall we? Let's see. Right. No. The weather. Never mind the weather as long as we're together. Right. Today, it's going to hit 19 degrees, about the same as it did yesterday. It's there may be a little, no rain. It's 14 degrees. What is it now? Yes, it's 14 degrees exactly at coming up to 9:30, and it's going to rise in the next hour to 16 degrees and continue to rise up until noon, when it's going to hit 18-19. But we will have some cloud. It's not going to be clear skies. It's not going to be sunny after 11 o'clock. And it won't stay sunny for the rest of the day, purely. It will be one of those days where we'll see the sun peeking through the clouds, scare the hell out of us. It's going to rain, and we better take cover, but then just float off into the distance. The night clear. Friday, tomorrow, 20 degrees centigrade, and a whopping good day by the look of things. Sunshine, Saturday sunshine, Sunday sunshine, Monday sunshine, Tuesday sunshine, Wednesday sunshine. Thursday we get our dose of rain. The temperatures are going to be very good. 20, 21, 22, 23, 22. And that is where we're at with the sun. No, with the weather. I mean, with whether we're going to see the sun. Okay, that's more or less a wrap up of roundup of the news. I think that it is very interesting that Sunak has decided to opt for a radical approach to politics. First of all, the Conservatives, as they were constituted, were going nowhere. They were getting themselves into a dreadful muddle. Now, can he get them out of the muddle? Can he reform enough? Or will they descend into more backbiting, yelling, and screaming at one another rather than the opposition? I don't know. I can't make up my mind whether, in fact, he's capable of driving through such radical change as he's proposing. But in my view, we need radical change. The country is in a mess. It's going nowhere. It was leaderless. It was having little to say for itself. Now, I was the first to criticize Sunak as Prime Minister. I was, I said quite cruelly I'd watched the two budgets. One was a financial statement, the full budget. I criticised his handling of that because, to all intents and purposes, he said he didn't really think that that we were on the right track, and then he went into purdah, as it were. Didn't say much, but I watched his first two budgets, and I came to the conclusion that this man was smoke and mirrors. In other words, he did a fantastic job. Had people in the aisles cheering his budgets. That included some Labour people at the time. And the belief that the country wasn't in anywhere near as good a shape as it might be. Big problem is that, unfortunately, we found that it wasn't the truth. What he'd done was he'd taken the balance sheets and he'd jigged them around. So it looked as if he was making concessions to the country, and he wasn't at all. He was moving money from point A to point B, from point B to point C, to point D to point E, and back to point A, and having taken a long, slow, tortuous route. So the very stuff that he's criticizing right now seems to be in the nature of his philosophies and his policies. So we will find some interest whether in fact he can dramatically change Britain. The papers make much of the fact that a lot of the change are what I would call less important issues. But I can't say that some of the things that he has decided to push aren't radical, aren't full of change, the very thing that I've been calling for, and they all are trying very hard to take us in a different direction. Now, that's always upsetting to people in your own party, as well as the other parties. There are two things that one is almost immediately you've got criticism from within his own party. That was to be expected. But is that change going to upset the apple cart to the point where everybody will be fighting him, and all that will happen is, up until the next election, which isn't very far away now, that will happen is that his own people will try to undermine any changes in the way that he's described, the way that he says he plans to take forward. Are they actually going to scupper the boat? Because if they do, there's no question that they'll scupper election. But is it sometimes better to get rid of the old school and bring it into line with elsewhere, and bring it into line with the sort of things that we should be doing? It's all a bit of a mystery. It is all a mystery. My mouth is running dry. We better just take a little potter's wheel. Well, the politicians will now get on with what they're supposed to do. I suppose is meet in the House of Commons and debate this whole thing. I think we're going to hear a lot of hard-hitting speeches in the next few days. But I think that, well, we need some hard-hitting speeches. We need some people to be told, listen, if we've got any sort of hope at all of creating a just and fair society, there are certain things have to go. I'll leave your imagination to what things have to go. But you might have to. So it's not a question. I was choosing. Which pizza? It's not a pizza box at all. It's just a little, just a little slogan. Okay, it is 8:28. It's coming up to 8:30. What we're going to do is change tack now and try to have a little breakfast giggle. If we can do this wonderful system that we've got, what I'm going to do is, yesterday I played something because the debate, the discussion was what is English and how we've changed in nature and so on and so forth. And I played a piece, and because of the faulty internet, it didn't come across terribly well. Now, I've always been a great admirer of a columnist who I think probably is dead now. His name was Pierre Danino, and he wrote for the French daily Le Figaro, and he would write essays, comic essays, and so on. But he also had his own view of the Englishman, which he explained in cartoon terms. Well, the fact of the matter is that he mildly took the pee, if you like, but in the nicest way, because he was actually an Anglophile. Is Pierre Danino liked the Brits, unlike a lot of French people, and as a consequence, he did gentle humor, and this is his view of the Brit was a mustachioed gentleman in a bowler hat with an umbrella and with a waistcoat and a bougainvillea, I call it, as a thing in your lapel. And he all in all, created the image of what the French thought was an Englishman. And one of the nice little things that he had is one of the amusing little things he had is he always drew a briefcase in the major's arms, and he that in that case was a penny. Now in those days, a penny was rather a big coin, but he had that penny because Danino said all English gentlemen have a penny in their briefcase, so that if necessary, if they have to go to the toilet, the public toilet, they had got the penny in which to do it and not embarrass anybody. So that's Danilo, and here's my take on his view of the Englishman. All right, okay. Let's take a look.
Peculiar breed, aren't we? We still have very quaint customs. I suppose that outside people see them as quaint. We see them as quite serious to the way that our society should operate. Hugh Grant, when he made the film Love Actually, gave a little speech at a press conference about what England was. I only paraphrase it, but he says something like, "We're only a small country, but we're a great country. The country of Shakespeare, of Harry Potter, of Churchill, of 007, and a whole host of other people, including David Beckham's right foot, David Beckham's left foot, come to that. And that's the sort of way, I suppose, that we see ourselves, is not in any power structure, but as being potty people from a potty little country, which punches well above its weight. First of all, of course, is the oddity is that we still have what we call English gentlemen. And if you want to define what an English gentleman is, for instance, no English gentleman will ever be seen dead with a tie that matches his kerchief at the top of his pocket. They shouldn't look the same. And yet you will find in the stores that they sell packages of ties and kerchiefs that are exactly the same color. Well, you're not an English gentleman if you're wearing a tie that matches your bougoutier. In the gentlemen's clubs, it's rather amusing because also, when it comes to sartorial splendor, that the most wonderful suits, pinstripe, blue stripe, any stripe, are worn. But the gentleman does not wear a pair of socks that matches. The higher you are, normally it's red socks. A little more, and I have a challenge with a peer of the realm to see who can outdo each other with socks that look something like this. Striped socks. So far, I'm beating him. I've got better stripes than he has. But that's the way that the Englishman will dress, and will be very careful about it. There are other oddities. I mentioned the gentlemen's clubs. The other evening, sitting in the cocktail bar, two people who were new or strangers shook hands. And suddenly there was a frozen silence. You do not shake hands in the cocktail bar of the club. And by the same token, in the evening, you don't come in if you're not in a suit. Oh my goodness me, aren't we actually snobs? No, we're not. We just enjoy all these peculiarities. We enjoy reveling in them and don't think twice about them. From outside, there are a number of things which don't make sense, and I thought I might just run through one or two of these things to try and straighten you out. First of all, our form of government. It's a constitutional monarchy. So we have a queen as the head of state, but she has no power. The legislation is made by the House of Commons, which is an elected chamber. But it has to send any of its deliberations to the House of Lords, which is made up of peers, lords of the realm. And they can actually say to any legislation, no, no, no. When they said no the third time, it makes no difference. It goes back to the House of Commons. which then votes on it, and if government's got a large enough majority, it becomes law. No, it doesn't. It's got to go to the Queen, who has no power. But unless she says okay, given, as it's called, royal assent, it doesn't become law. No power, no legislation, unless she says that it's okay, that's fine. And talking of the Queen, of course, Buckingham Palace is where she resides normally, and outside there are guards in wonderful red tunics, marching up and down, stamping their feet, day in, day out, night in, night out, guarding the royal presence. And on their heads are black hats, known as bear skins. Although they're synthetic nowadays, they were made of the skins from bears in the past. Bear skins. But the Queen sent a memo to one of her aides the other day in which she mentioned that she would like some more bear skins ordered. He put it through the computer, and dear old algorithms or logarithms, whatever rhythms they are, sent it back as saying it was unacceptable because it was obscene. The Queen, bear skins, obscene. And those old logarithms certainly get involved in our daily life. In my hometown of Lewis, we have a war memorial that was cast and shaped in 1920. It's a beautiful piece of work. It has around the base 4 maidens. And the architect, the sculptor, designed them so that one of their breasts is barely covered. A colleague sent a piece of video showing the war memorial. It came back obscene. So there we are. Bear skins, war memorials, all obscene. Would you believe it? But in Lewis, at the turn of the century, the turn of the last century, in 1910 or so, the famous sculptor Rodin sent the Kiss, his statue of intertwined figures, which is, yes, it's slightly erotic. It wouldn't turn an eye nowadays. But in 1910, it was put in a shed for a little while. And when it was brought out, a local lady took one look at it. Actually, she didn't. She looked at it for 2 or 3 hours and then decided that nobody else should be defiled, that they shouldn't be corrupted by looking at this famous Rodin statue. And so she persuaded the council to put it back into the storeroom that it had been in and keep it there for another 10 years. And famous stories of how troops during the war went into the town hall and they had the statue of Rodin in there, and that a cloth was put over so that they wouldn't be too excited by this statue. Nowadays, I think probably people pass it by without a second glance. Telephone booths. Don't we have wonderful telephone booths? Everybody comes to London to see the red telephone booths, except sometimes we've painted them black. Don't ask why we painted them black, but we did. And there are plenty of these phone booths that are red left, but they don't have any phones in them, because now we don't use that sort of phone. So the red telephone box stands there with no phone. And if you open the door to look where the phone used to be, the inside is plastered with Bertha invites you to visit her, or Maggie will make you happy, with email addresses. You can get hold of these unfortunate ladies who I'm sure are just welcoming tourists. But it's the way that they actually advertise it in the telephone booth is the amusing way of welcoming people to Britain from the ladies of the street or of the night. Oh dear, aren't we actually just a strange nation? Well, we are. And I suppose that the one thing that we really don't have that much of is good trains. You get onto a train in Britain and it says it is going to Hayward Heath. Halfway there, it stops at Gatwick Airport. and all the passengers are told to get out because for some weird reason it is not allowed to go any further. It's, no reason is given. You just can't go any further. So everybody piles out and is told to catch the next train to wherever they're going to. Haywards Heath, Brighton, wherever. Except there are no trains to this destinations. You stand on the platform and you wait and you wait and you wait. And there are no announcements, no nothing. The trains that go nowhere, only we in Britain could have them. We have a lot of peculiarities, and I will, over the coming weeks, just outline some of them to you. Because nonetheless, rural Britannia, we just love the way that we live. And we are almost like animals in a zoo. People come to stare at us and gaze at us, and we allow them to, and we stand there, and we love it, even though we would say, we're quite normal. What's wrong with them? No, we're not. We are eccentric, to say the least. Our airline, British Airways, absolutely wonderful. I got on a flight in Budapest a little while ago, fell asleep, and thought I was on the way to London, when in fact I was woken to hear the lady on the microphone saying, "Welcome to the Algarve." Algarve? That's in Portugal. Yes, he said cheerfully. We got into flight and the computer directed us to the Algarve. Sorry you're not in London, but here you are on the south coast of Portugal, which is warm and has sangria and all sorts of other things. Thank goodness that we're eccentric. Thank goodness that the computers that serve us are eccentric, because now I'm able to pop off to a Portuguese bar and have a wonderful time having a drink and lying in the sun. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Toodle pip.
Well, there we are. That's it. So we Well, I'm afraid that, for some reason, I've lost myself. I don't even know whether you can hear me. There. For some reason, the camera switched itself off. Deary, deary, deary me. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little snippet of from Pierre Dano and what an Englishman is all about. It is now 8:47, and the newspaper headlines have been this morning that we have got a prime minister who has decided to be a radical changer, if you like, a radical reformer. And so politics is all up in the air, almost entirely. Labour not going to like him one little bit, but some of his own people aren't going to like him. And this is so often the case with the Conservatives. They actually fight amongst themselves a great deal. Ah, dear, I better just let me, if I can, take a little breather there, because these things do exhaust you, and let's just to catch our breath. I've got one here, Connor and the Countess, and this is a little thing that we did a while back, where our regular contributor on a Friday has been with us for a long time, Melissa Conti, and her son tried or did a little food program for us from New York. So perhaps what we'll do is I haven't previewed it, so we'll just have to see whether in fact it works all right. It's not there, so that doesn't help. It's no, I'm afraid that my good intentions all up the chute again. I mean, I think you've got used to the fact that I am not the greatest when it comes to technology, and I have to try and hope that I can do it when I'm let's see, we should have no, I'm getting myself into a twist here. So let's go to something else, and just for a minute anyway, or for 30 seconds, and see if we can. Well, not doing much roaring this morning, am I? I'm leaving others to do the roaring. one of the things that we do on this television station is we allow opinions and views contrary to the norm. There's an increasing amount of it's not exactly censorship. It's not permitting people to an increasing amount of censorship that creeps into our legislation, creeps into the regulation, creeps into what the establishment do. And it's a bit frightening, really. And whether you agree with her or not, Liza Page has very strong opinions and beliefs about what's happening in the corridors of power. She'll be along at I think 10:30, I think, to deliver her view on what we have to suffer, and whether she's right or whether she's wrong is beside the point. It's her view, and she researches immaculately the data on which she bases her opinions. And some of that data is certainly there to see. And it is freedom of speech is gets very dicey sometimes now in our society. I hope that Mirador opens up the doors to people with an alternative view. She is one of them. But if you've got one, you're very welcome to come on. And all you got to do is walk into the front door of the White House and say, "Oi, I want to have a chat to you. I want to express an opinion." And you're on. Well, most certainly, as long as you don't libel anybody and don't wallow in obscenity, then we're more than happy to see you. And that's what this television channel is all about. Giving an alternative view and taking a look at different things that we see in our society. So let me just take a little break, and I will be back with a few more programs, taking us up to 10 o'clock and Liza Page. So just for the moment, toodle pip, I think. Well, there we are. There we are. Once again, I can never find what I'm looking for.